How do nations avoid international court judgments? Imagine a world where countries are supposed to follow the rules just like players in a game. But what happens when some players decide not to follow the referee's calls? That's what we're talking about today. When countries face decisions from international courts, they don't always want to accept them. So, how do they dodge these judgments? Let's find out. International courts like the International Court of Justice, relying on countries to agree to their authority. If a country doesn't accept the court's jurisdiction before a case begins, it can simply refuse to participate. This means the court can't force them to follow its rulings. Countries can also withdraw their consent during a case if they decide they don't want to be bound anymore. This makes it harder for the court to enforce its decisions. Many powerful nations, especially those on the United Nations Security Council, choose not to accept the court's compulsory jurisdiction. They prefer to keep control over their legal decisions. This weakens the court's power because if big countries refuse to accept rulings, the court's influence shrinks. Countries also see international court judgments as an infringement on their sovereignty, or their right to govern themselves. They might ignore rulings if they believe it conflicts with their national interests. Another big challenge is that international courts don't have their own police force. They can't directly enforce their decisions. Instead, they depend on other countries or the Security Council to help enforce rulings. If a permanent member of the Security Council opposes a judgment, enforcement can be blocked. Countries can also use legal tricks like challenging the court's authority or delaying proceedings to avoid unfavorable decisions. Sometimes they move cases to other courts that seem more favorable to them. From a liberalism point of view, which values the rule of law and international cooperation, these avoidance tactics are problematic. They weaken the idea that countries should be held accountable and follow international rules. To fix this, liberalism supports strengthening international courts and encouraging countries to accept their authority. This means making courts more transparent, fair, and respected. It also involves working together to improve enforcement mechanisms so that rulings are more likely to be followed. In the end, the challenge is balancing a country's sovereignty with the need for an impartial judicial system that can peacefully resolve disputes. International courts need the cooperation of nations to be effective. Countries that want a fair and peaceful world must find ways to respect international judgments and work within the system. That's how nations can move toward a more just and cooperative global community.